people.
Well, everyone, I want to announce loud and clear, salt must flow. Salt must flow. Salt will flow right here today. Salty Cracker at Salty Cracker 9. He returns. Indictments of Russian agents who allegedly infiltrated Tenant Media, and lots of podcasters are getting caught in the blow-off. Also, I think people are aware that the Brazilians have censored X, and more ramblings from Flowing Salt. We've got a lot of other things, including how Salty loves AOC, and his affection for her shall be explored, as well as many other topics. We're watching you on the Rumble Rants and on the Restream. Put your thoughts up there, and I'll bring them to the Salt Flow after this.
Our laws, as it pertains to substances, are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way.
He was an alcoholic
Because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin, ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for Christ's sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people.
I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals.
Let's just deal with what's real.
We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time.
Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. You have trouble you can't stop and you want to help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
Joint and muscle pains are exhausting and frustrating, but I've got a over-the-counter medication I want to introduce you to that provides great relief using the power of, check it out, chili peppers. Capsidin is made with a proprietary formula that contains no non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents, no opioids, no anesthetic or steroid, nothing, no chance for addiction, no side effects, no chance it's going to interact with other medication you might be taking. Capsidin contains capsaicin, which is the substance in chili peppers that burns your tongue. That gives you that burny feeling. And of course, I've recommended capsaicin creams to patients over the years, but other capsaicin creams burn your skin. That's what makes capsidin so unique. In clinical trials, capsidin has actually been demonstrated not to burn.
I've been using capsidin to relieve my pain in my hands and my wrist from carpal tunnel syndrome and arthritis. The results have been amazing. I use it every day during my show, and I highly recommend it.
Get the pain relief you need from various sources, even backache, sprains, bruises even. Order now at capsidin.com/Drew to get a 15% discount plus free shipping. That is CAPSADYN, capsidin.com/DREW. The website is saltmustflow.com. The X handle is saltycracker9. We appreciate the Salt Queen for leaving the lid loose on the salt today, so it will flow. Welcome, Salty Cracker, back to the program.
Thank you for having me, Drew. Dr. Drew, sorry.
My pleasure. And it's whatever. It's all good. We're friends now. And as I see George Washington over your left shoulder, my first thought was, oh yeah, or Biden, same guy. Washington, Biden, same quality of president. I mean, that's been established now, right?
Well, clearly, yeah. Except not. No.
Did you hear that? Somebody is saying that. Somebody's saying that out loud. I heard that yesterday on the news. I forget who it was. It was someone in Congress, just like, oh, this is the best. He is the best president since George Washington. Caleb, look that up. Let's see who said that. And I thought, wow, we've gone full maniac hyperbole now. But I thought some salt flow would be a good antidote to that.
Yeah, this is. I'm surprised that we're still playing this game where they're saying real stupid stuff about that goofball, considering they're done with him and threw him out under the bus and relegated him. Did you see they brought him out at the fake White House that they built across the street from the White House? They put him at a little kid's desk. They're just humiliating the guy at this point. It's incredible. But yeah, I guess some idiots in Congress are probably North Korea him.
And somebody, I think Elon. Somebody tweeted something about a coup, and the community notes, oh, there is George Clooney. That's right. George Clooney said he's the most selfless president since George Washington. But he went further. He went on to say he's the best president, if I recall. Maybe I misquoted that. But thank you, George Clooney. And now we can dismiss George Clooney, right? I mean, we don't have to. Isn't it clear? People are showing themselves for who they are and who we should be listening to.
George Clooney still thinks he's the best Batman, so I'm not going to take any advice from that guy. But I think he's probably got a little bit, he probably feels a little bit bad because he was part of that process that helped initiate a coup against Joe Biden. He came out, they held a fundraiser for him, and then he said something about Joe Biden he needed help off the stage. He said George Clooney helped launch the Hollywood okay to attack Joe Biden information barrage that got the dude thrown out.
Right. Well, that's why he's now feeling a little guilty about it, and now he's having to pay a little penance, trying to get some what we call it, some forgiveness for his excesses. I was saying that I saw somebody tweet about it having been a coup, and Community Notes checked it as coup d'état is a French word for an overthrow of the government, but it didn't deny that there had been a coup, which I found fascinating.
Well, yeah, no, it was a clear coup. There were powers behind the scenes of unelected, rich bureaucrats and probably other elites out there that decided that this guy's usefulness was at an end, and they decided.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt because some guy on Rumble named The Fifth Seal just donated $500 in a Rumble rant.
Oh my goodness.
Saying, hey, you are his two favorite people in the world. Enjoy, folks. Thanks for supporting the show. Sorry, I had to interrupt. That's huge.
Yeah, thanks for...
Thank you.
Yeah, Caleb appreciates that.
Fifth Seal.
my babies appreciate that.
The Fifth Seal. Everybody follow the Fifth Seal.
Sorry, money talks over here at
That must
Dr.
be one of
Trudy.
Salty's people, because our people are a little more, what shall we say? Is it pecuniary? Is that the word? It's a little more cautious. But thank you, Fifth Seal. We are watching you.
Our channel's more like a 12-step. We don't expect you to give us money, but thank you. Thank you.
Better not be Russian.
But to be fair, yeah, right. We'll talk about that in a second. But to be fair, if Fifth Seal speaks, put him on the screen. I'll read whatever comes by. I'd like to know why we're his two favorite people. That'd be very interesting.
Yeah, he can be a troll for $500.
And so, by the way, Bumping Valves asked Salty about his love for classic cars. He hints to in a statement, but I'd love for him to tell us what classic ride you prefer. So you like classic cars. You're like Corolla does a little bit of that too. Yes?
Yeah, my dad was a big gearhead and a mechanic, and so we've had cars around forever. And he gave me a 65 Mustang when I was like 14. It was completely destroyed and melted, and anybody familiar with Mustangs knows that they weren't protected at all from the elements, even in California. And so spent a lot of my time rebuilding that car. And so any old car, any car that's got actual sheet metal on it is good by me.
If Seals is on the record saying he's not a troll, he just likes us. And Salty Balls 762 really want to know who's running the country. It's West Exec nearby to the fake White House. What is he talking about with that? Can you tell me?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that, but are you familiar that they built a stage across the street from the White House that was meant to look like the White House? And I don't know what the intent was behind that. I don't know what's going on with that, but they had to come out and acknowledge that, yeah, for the first few months, Joe Biden wasn't giving addresses from the White House. It's the studio that's across the street. You can actually see pictures of the press inside of it, and they got lights up in the front. It's got a fake window in the back. And so whether it's because he couldn't manage his way up the stairs into the official White House, I have no idea what they needed for the guy to keep him in that one, but they brought him back into it yesterday. I'm not sure what the reference to the West Executive is.
I think what he's saying is that Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano acknowledged, oh, come on now, don't make me say that, a two-page letter condemning the Olympics in Paris. Is that, you're smiling, you were aware of this letter?
No, I'm not familiar with that either. No, we're going deep in the weeds.
It includes some... I know. Well, I'm just reading what they sent. They come across my desk here. But he's going. Your people seem to, that first episode where you got me to say something disparaging about Michelle Obama. They seem hell bent on that happening again. That's all I'm saying. And so now that I'm hip to the acronym, I'm not going to be saying it.
Yeah, be careful what you read, Dr. Drew. You might get indicted by the OJ.
Well, that's what I want to talk about. So we have this Tenant Media group that we got $10 million from Russia. I want to say up front, I've been saying this for the last couple of days, I was on Russian TV when everyone thought it was a good idea to have Russian TV on the cable docket. Do you remember this? RT? It was RT television. And you know who had a big show? Do you remember? There was a very big show on RT with a very big talent. Do you remember who that talent was? Are you aware?
Didn't Jesse Ventura have a show on RT?
I think he did, but I'm not. I have a bigger one. It was William Shatner. Had a very good show on RT. I was on the show with him, and he was waxing poetic about how great the operation was. I met with them with the possibility of maybe, I don't know who they are. They're Russians. What do I know? They're just it's just RT as far as I knew. Somebody that had a good show with Bill Shatner, who was just wonderful. I have nothing but great things to say about him. And in fact, I think he had 2 shows, if I remember right. But and now it's now because Russia is now the enemy, and any money and media from Russia. Has this been around for a long time, this Tenant Media, or is this something new, or is it something old that is just sort of being used for political reasons? What's happening there?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with how old Tenant Media is, but I know maybe within the last year they procured a whole slew of individuals that do podcasts. So I mean, Tim Pool's on there, Lauren Southern's on there, Benny Johnson.
And what do they do? What do they do? Thank you, Swede. What do they do? What do they fund? Are they funding an ad campaign? Or what was the money for that these people were giving? Let's say Tim Pool. I mean, Tim, I imagine he wouldn't. I could see where he wouldn't even have any awareness of it. It's some business phenomenon. Some of his business people handled, and it was a contribution for something, probably to promote other podcasts or something, right?
Well, they licensed media from these individuals, and so so Tim Pool licensed out, I think, one of his podcasts to them.
I see.
Benny Johnson would make for them. So Tenant Media, they essentially have a YouTube channel, and maybe even an app or something. And what they did was they enlisted these individuals to make as contractors, independent contractors, to make content that would be exclusive for that platform, put it on there. And because some Russian allegedly invested $10 million into Tenant, now the government is saying, well, they're the Russian provocateurs or they're agents of Russia, and the media is running wild with this right now. These people are all going to get sued. Tim Pool's already saying, "I'm going to sue all of you."
Good. I love that. I think I keep begging for somebody to take this on, because until there's a huge consequence for their excesses, they will not stop. They have no problem destroying people's lives with falsehoods, and they do not reverse course. And if they do reverse course, on the back page somewhere. I mean, New York Times wrote, I went over what New York Times wrote early in the COVID pandemic about me and Rob Schneider, where they attacked us on, we went over it, he and I read it on this stream, point by point. By the way, Rob's coming on again next week. Maybe we should do it again. And we were right on everything. They attacked us for things we were absolutely proven to be right on. And no apology, no nothing, no.
Blackballed all of us in Hollywood, too.
Yeah, well, what you're doing is you're not adhering to the script and the plan that these people from Hollywood and these other elites, want you to keep dragging. The people like George Clooney want you to keep going with. And if you go against the ideology, then it's a twofold problem, because number one, you're speaking out against the regime, but then you're also sending a signal flare to other people that it's fine. Like, these people have threatened Rob Schneider. They've tried to keep you guys off of these other platforms. They try to excommunicate you from Hollywood. Rob Schneider's probably bigger than ever at this point. And so people are starting to recognize that, this power that the Hollywood elites, the legacy media used to have, it's waning. And, you can, speak out against these people and still survive and still thrive.
Do you have a sort of view for the future? Do you see where this is all going? Is traditional media or so-called mainstream media going to continue to wither? Is independent media going to continue to grow? Do you have a sense of that, or just who knows?
Well, if it's anything like what's happened in the past, these forces will try to co-opt, this evolving media. And so when you have, I imagine this was the same process that you had when radio was big. you had independent creators on radio. And then these entities, these evil agenda people recognize the power of radio and they start infesting it. And then television comes along, kills off radio essentially, and it's the same process. And these people then infect television. And this Internet 2.0 that we're in right now, or Internet 3.0, where we're currently at, I think they're seeing the same thing. I think they're recognizing
but
that.
It sounds like, though, hang on now, that sounds like an indictment of capitalism. Because most of what you're describing is the consolidation associated with corporate media that happened in radio and then happened in television, and then the government developed. It's the private-public so-called partnership that created the problem. It wasn't just the capitalism doing its thing, was it?
Well, so I love capitalism, and everything that's happening, I think, is a good thing. I think this fight between this corruptive nature of these individuals that want to co-opt things, that's a good thing. That's how we've got Internet 3.0. This continuing fight between, people who want to create and people who want to co-opt creations. It pushes ingenuity and it pushes technology forward, and it allows people. I mean, there's way more opportunity for the average person now to be able to reach millions and millions of people. This is a good thing. Now, when corporations and evil people get together and they start using, federal funds to create monopolies in order to attack, that's not capitalism, that's cronyism. And so capitalism is a fantastic vehicle for upward momentum.
Right. So the way I see it is, so the businesses come in, they come in with capital, they consolidate, everyone benefits, and the economy becomes richer because of the increasing growth and whatnot and opportunities. And then they become big and bloated, and then they start funding politicians. And now it's on. And they start hiring lobbyists who go to the regulators and control the regulators, and now we have a shit show. Now it's a shit show. And that's not a function of capitalism. That's a function of the distorted cronyism, as you call it, or let's call it corruption, by the way the system is set up. So do we need to, get lobbyists out of Washington? What do we do?
Yeah, that's a monumental problem, and there's so much that needs to be cleaned up that it would be hard to express it in a few moments. But clearly, the biggest problem is to decentralize some of this power. Washington is completely top-heavy with unearned power that they don't deserve. Yes. And the best thing to do with that is to break that up. And Donald Trump is one of these individuals that he's clearly showing that he wants to start sending power back to the states. He wants to start sending power out of Washington, D.C., so it's closer to the average voter who can vote on these things in their own communities, in their own states and stuff like that. So breaking up that power.
So if you're gonna keep talking like that, you're gonna have to put a picture of Jefferson behind you in addition to the other two gentlemen. Because that's what you're championing Jeffersonianism, right? And I agree with you. We've gone too much into federalism and not enough into, it's always was Hamilton versus Jefferson, right? And Hamilton was kind of a genius, but it gets very top heavy very quickly if you go too far into the Hamiltonian federalist system. And if you want to, read the Federalist Papers, if you want to know the arguments for and against. I mean, it's been laid out. It's just so odd to me that we have to say these things as though the basics of the operation of this country are not something the average person knows, but here we are. But I want to get the salt flowing a little more, if you don't mind. So I want, and I've got to take a break at a certain point here, but before break, I want to get the salt flowing. And I want to play a tape for you, a video of your enthusiastic embrace of one of our congressional leaders, a female leader. You've had a particular affection for her. Let's take a look.
Everybody is terrified of a Trump presidency. And everybody wants to do everything and anything possible to prevent that from happening.
See, Donald Trump, he's a dangerous threat to our democracy. So we got to do anything and everything. Again, he was shot 5 days ago. When she said this, it was 4 days ago. 4 days ago. Now, again, what she's saying, I don't have a problem with. I don't. What I got a problem with is that this same goes around telling everybody that me calling her a is a death threat. Me saying mean things to her, that's a death threat. See, that's the problem that I have. I have a problem that one side is allowed to say, everything's a death threat. Everything's a death threat. Did you hold that fucking door open for me? That's a death threat. Oh my God, Alex Stein, 99, prime time, pimp on a blimp. He said I got a nice juicy Latina butt. That's a death threat. No, it's not a death threat, you stupid.
Classic.
I might have been drunk.
Well, I guess next time I'm going to have to send you a bottle of tequila or something and have you consume it before you come on my show. Because that I guess you take salt with your tequila, but salt flowing one way or another, I don't care how it gets there. It's entertaining. But to your point, it is really, I'm really actually kind of disturbed by the safety stuff because I really want to emphasize this. I have not made a big issue of this. And by the way, people are advocating that we do a show, one a week together called, what do they call it? Hold on a second.
Salt
guys.
line.
It's kind of funny. Salt line. If we do a salt line show. It's good. And by the way, Caleb, when we come back from break, get ready to I think we texted you the fake White House thing, so you can put that up in real time after the break. But the lack of this protectionism of the gentle folk, the extreme of the what's the word I'm looking for? The people that fall apart so easily. The help me. The
Vulnerable?
No. You got what do we?
Gullible?
Injured or insulted or
useful
Snowflakes.
idiots.
Thank you, Salty.
Snowflake.
Thank you. The snowflakes. Snowflakes. Wow, you guys, how your brains work. Useful idiots. The snowflakes must be protected. I mean, think about this. It's so categorically, completely, axiomatically clear in mental health that the way you create mental health is through exposure. Exposure to things you don't like. If somebody has an anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, if they're social anxiety, you give them tolerable doses. Now, I'm not saying that she should be subjected to your expressions of affection. I'm not saying that's going to be good for her or helpful to her, but the idea that everything goes to a 5-alarm fire that must be avoided because it's going to destroy me is the most unhealthy impulse in the world. And I don't think other countries really do that. It's narcissistic, of course. It also, yes, it is protecting people from PTSD and trauma, which we have an overwhelming population of these days. But even those folks should be exposed to manage their feelings. And this idea that we protect people from reality or from social engagement or from the stimuli that they find unpleasant, I am really, really disturbed about that. I see you're doing your part in exposing them to as much as possible.
Well, I mean, the internet's a big facilitator of this because it's so easy to block and mute anybody that is giving you, whether it's legitimate criticism or it's my type of criticism, which I think is legitimate with a little bit of spice and color in it. It's way too easy to just tune out those people. But she's an idiot, and she's a dangerous idiot. And this woman's running around telling everybody that everything's a death threat. Mean words are a death threat. And then she'll tell you that later on in that clip, she makes some sort of Donald Trump must be stopped by any means possible. This is 4 days after the dude was shot.
Yeah.
And so
that's like a threat right there.
Yeah.
Is your mic on, Susan? Can we hear you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, and when you say that a political candidate needs to be stopped by any means possible, then it's a very short leap to, well, why? What is it about this guy? Well, he's Hitler. Oh, okay. So I have an opportunity to stop Hitler? Count me in, everybody. And by the way, even think about this. You know, I've been reading a lot about early 1930s Germany. Even if you were around them, you would not have been able to predict that Hitler was Hitler. You wouldn't have seen it. And oh, by the way, most of you during COVID have proven yourselves to have been the people that would become the prison guards. If you called Tim Walz's hotline, if you made an issue of somebody wearing a mask, that is the prison guard experiment writ large. And you failed. And you really should be examining yourself if you told anybody to pull up their mask.
Yeah, and Tucker Carlson was just interviewing a guy the other day about this, and they were talking about Churchill, and they're talking about the aspects of World War II and how you're not even allowed to criticize any of these modern myths that we've created around this. And in this interview, they're telling the guy's laying out how he's going to be called a Nazi after this interview is posted, because any critique of World War II will get you labeled that these days. And it's a protective element of this evil intent, because again, you just saw play out in our own country the same Stasi stuff that happened in East Germany, the same stuff that happened in Nazi Germany, the snitch culture, where you had scared individuals tuning and turning into the state apparatus that is killing people against their neighbors, against their fathers, against their brothers, all because they were whipped up with fear and didn't care about what this evil state was going to do to these individuals. And again, calling Tim Walt's snitch hotline to shut down somebody's Thanksgiving dinner, shutting down people's businesses, shutting down people's livelihoods, restricting kids from going to school over this, and then instituting the same exact snitch hotlines that we were brought up to speak out against, and they cheered it. They loved it.
Yeah, and by the way, I was thinking about some conversations I had in the darker days of COVID, and people are like, well, what are we supposed to do? I'll tell you what you're supposed to do. You listen to guys like Jay Bhattacharya, and you do focused protection of the vulnerable population. You do what they did in Florida. You do what they did in Sweden, and you move on about your business. Rochelle Walensky herself, in about just before she left office in, I think, 22, said in a very specific guideline presentation for how to handle COVID, her opening sentence was, "We can't prevent the spread of COVID-19. Okay, so what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? You're right, you can't. You can maybe mitigate it, maybe slow it. 6 feet made out of thin air. You invented 6 feet that came from nowhere. Is no evidence for it anywhere, never will be, because it doesn't work. Respiratory viruses go 30 to 60 feet. Masking, okay, if you use an N95 mask 100% of the time, but as soon as you say mask between bites, fuck that. Yeah. Now you're infecting people. That's completely a zero. So I want people to be sane. I want them to follow rational procedure. And it seems to me that the one great influence that we all abandoned, that we must really bring back, and we've sort of been talking around it today, you and I, is free speech. We've got to just get up and speak. I think those of us who were speaking got yelled down and got scared, and that was a mistake. We're speaking now, but we should have been speaking then without a beat. It should have just kept going. And I guess we kind of did, but it was confusing. It was the heat of war and stuff like that. How did you behave during all that?
Well, the initial few weeks of this, I wasn't sure what was going on. And so I was taking in as much information as possible. I was data collecting. And I was also, these people are crazy, Drew. God knows what they're willing to do. I've seen these idiots blow up parts of the planet and then laugh about it later on and then joke as, oh, it's a big joke, everybody. Don't worry about it. Weapons of mass destruction are here somewhere. Don't worry about it. So if they'll blow up places of the Middle East nonchalantly, I don't think for a second that they won't release crap in our country. So I was a little bit cautious. But then I started watching how there was one narrative. In that narrative, if you deviated from it, you were going to get hammered. You were going to get banned, threatened, get your medical license pulled. And those people ended up being correct. And so pretty quickly, you could see that it was problem, reaction, solution, and the solution had already been implemented. And now they were just reconfiguring in the media spheres the problem and the reaction to it. And so this is a bigger problem, because people are still talking about this today. And we recognize that something happened, something went wrong. We got to hold people accountable. People need to be arrested over this, because there needs to be an investigation, and there needs to be a trial. And if they're found guilty, they need to be arrested. But I don't think it'd be too hard to find a chain of evidence linking all of these fools together that were colluding in the background, silencing people, pushing an agenda that didn't help this country at all. They got away.
Well, not
with
only that, but I think the fact that the media is not held to account drives me crazy. I mean, the media, the mainstream media, what would just think off the top of your head, what are the 3 most prominent stories of the last 7 to 10 years? Well, Hunter Biden's laptop, number 1. Number 2, Russia collusion hoax. Number 3, COVID. They got all 3 completely wrong, not partly wrong, completely wrong. They carried water for I don't know what to call those people. For propagandists, people that were just trying to delude the American public, and they carried water for them, and they should have a 1-hour special where they fall on their swords and talk about it, examine it, and look at it. Instead, moving on. Now keep listening to us, because we know what we're talking about. We get everything right. No, you freaking get everything wrong. Salty Cracker, follow him on X, Salty Cracker 9. We have to take a little break. Got a lot more to talk about. Let me quickly visit the rants and the restream. See if anything come up, Caleb, from our friends that have been giving us those wonderful, what do you call them? What do you call those things?
Rumble rants. Rumble rants. Yes, I just gave my toddler a tiny little bite of some caviar. So thank you so much for your gigantic donation, the 5th seal. My children are eating quite well now.
Yeah, that's good. If you can switch to
my babies.
Caviar
based
based on $5 contributions. Okay, good for you. Are we all going to die of AIDS, or have you changed your mind? Your daddy, I don't know what you're talking about with dying of AIDS. I worked deep in the AIDS pandemic for years and years and years. And we actually had a crazy sort of spree then where we would can't get this from anything. We didn't wear gloves a lot of the time. You have to have intimate contact with these people. And so I was deep in that for quite some time. All right, we'll take let me quick look at the restream. Sorry, guys. A lot of re's out there. I see you. Salty Army. Tribunals held by the Salty Army. There's an idea, Monsieur Salt. And maybe we put the Queen Salt in charge of that tribunal. How about that? No?
I want them to have a fair trial. I'm a little bit biased. We need habeas corpus. They need to have a fair trial. I'm way too biased. I'd skip everything, but it shouldn't be left to me.
Well, that's why I wanted Queen to head the trials. But okay, Queen Salt.
Angrier than me.
Be that as it may, she's more biased. That's what I was afraid of. Okay, we got a lot more to get to here. We still didn't finish that Tenant Media conversation. We've got Brazil and Michael Schallenberger, and he's on his way to Sao Paulo, I just read. And then we're going to talk about the phony White House that Caleb has a picture of, and we'll show it to you in just a second after this break. I'm excited to bring you a new product, a new supplement, Fatty. I take it. I make Susan take it. My whole family takes it. This comes out of, believe it or not, Dolphin Research. The Navy maintains a fleet of dolphins, and a brilliant veterinarian recognized that these dolphins sometimes developed a syndrome identical to our Alzheimer's disease. Those dolphins were deficient in a particular fatty acid. She replaced the fatty acid, and they didn't get the Alzheimer's. Humans have the same issue, and we are more deficient in this particular fatty acid than ever before. And a simple replacement of this fatty acid called C15 will help us prevent these syndromes. It's published in a recent journal called Metabolites. It's a new nutritional C15, pentadecanoic acid it's called. The deficiency that we are developing for C15 creates something called the cellular fragility syndrome. This is the first nutritional deficiency syndrome to be discovered in 75 years and may be affecting us in many ways, and as many as 1 in 3 of us. This is an important breakthrough. Take advantage of it. Go to fatty15.com/Dr. Drew to receive 15% off a 90-day starter kit subscription, or use code Dr. Drew at checkout for that 15% off, or just go to our website, drdrew.com, patreon.com/fatty15. Many of us have not gotten over COVID. I'm not talking about the virus itself, but the response. We were flabbergasted about what the government could do to us. There is no telling what they might pull next time, and it's looking more like there will be a next time. So we all have to be what I call rationally ready. That's where the wellness company comes in. TWC is about access to physicians via telehealth, access to potentially life-saving medication. Years ago, having access to medication and telehealth might have seemed crazy, but now it seems crazy not to. Now, with claims that gain-of-function research have been done on the bird flu, I urge everyone to take control of their healthcare with the help of the wellness company. Go to drdrew.com/TWC for 10% off all their products, including the 4 medical kits, each of which has a different purpose. And we've added Tamiflu to one of them in case the bird flu does become a problem for humans. Be rationally ready. drdrew.com/TWC for 10% off.
Smell is sexy. Or sushi. Or Dr. Drupinski.
What?
We are here, of course, with Salty Cracker, Salty Cracker 9 on X. We're going to get to him in just a second. I've got a lot of things yet to get into. But I want to remind everyone about our friends at Paleo Valley. Whether you're headed to the gym or the office, there's nothing like starting with caffeine and protein. At least that's how we do it. We start with Paleo Valley grass-fed finished beef bone broth, the chocolate we love. We put in our coffee every day. Superior by every metric, delicious, high in collagen, low in calories, like 70 calories for a big scoop. Made from bones, not hides. Grass-fed finished means the cattle are grass-fed their entire lives. Paleo Valley bone broth helps the battle against sarcopenia, which is the big battle as we age. The loss of muscle as we get older, and it reduces our metabolic rate and increases our risk of all sorts of things like falls. Integral part of our workout regimen for weight bearing, which is key in preventing the sarcopenia with the nutritional sources. Make it part of your daily routine. drdrew.com/Paleo Valley for 15% off your first order, or subscribe and you will never run out. 20% off. Don't run out. It's drdrew.com/Paleo Valley. So, Caleb, I've lost my picture on this end for some weird reason, but I assume you have Salty. There we go. We're back. Let's bring Salty Cracker back. There you are. Thank you for being here, as always. The New York Times repeatedly has been attacking the Constitution. The First Amendment is, quote, out of control. There's a First Amendment out of control. This is all astonishing to me. Constitution's sacred. It's also dangerous. The Constitution is dangerous. Fascinating. Now, I understand these are opinion pieces. Constitution is broken and should not be reclaimed. Interesting. So all the people that have sworn their lives and their liberty and everything else to the Constitution, they were hoodwinked. They were dummies. And these people know better.
Yeah, the commies at New York Times know better. Now, they're absolutely 100% right, by the way. The Constitution is very dangerous. It's dangerous to these corrupt commies in the New York Times. And so their agenda, I get that these are opinion pieces, but this is a platform, and there are people at the top of that platform who pick and choose what opinion pieces go in. So I don't think it's a coincidence that they keep getting the same narrative affirming opinion pieces plugged into their periodical that they pump out to people. No, they're trying to.
Remember, let's all recall. I hate to bring it all back to COVID, but that's where things were sort of revealed to me, at least. The New York Times editorial board demanded lockdowns. They knew best what non-pharmacological approach we should be taking to a pandemic. Demanded lockdowns. And I want to remind everybody that there was a pandemic preparedness plan that the government had. They abandoned it completely. It was supposed to be the way it had always operated, which is the CDC, and that Fauci advised doctors and local public health officials, as opposed to becoming fiat totalitarian outlets. And it was the likes of the New York Times that scared them into this outlandish behavior.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's with everything. It's not just the COVID stuff. These are the same people that tell you that an open border is fine, that migrants don't commit crimes. They conflate migrants and illegal aliens. They tell you that Jeffrey Epstein totally killed himself. I mean, these people they're 100% on the side of, clearly there's a narrative that is given to them, and there's a narrative that they're allowed to talk about. and they're staying in their lane. And you're seeing this, it's legacy media, these Hollywood weirdos. You got all these musicians all butthurt that Donald Trump is playing music at their rallies. They're all complaining about it. And these people don't care that their music's being played to people. They want to make sure that they're putting out their, I don't know, commie signal that they're good little commies and they'll be on board with the agenda. So please don't hammer us down. We hate Donald Trump. He's playing our music and stuff like this. And every single time, if you give enough space in between these, you'll find out that all of those positions are wrong. All of these opinion pieces are wrong. All of these articles from New York Times or Washington Post or these legacy media that can't make any money on their own, these are all wrong. Time proves over and over again that the outliers, that these people on these podcasts, we're the ones who were right.
Yeah, I was thinking, you mentioned, I was thinking of Joe Rogan in his comedy stand-up special, I Feel Like Him, where he talked about the acronym that your people are trying to get me to say. He also said, "I'll believe anything these days. I'll believe that. I'll believe the world is flat. Everything's a possibility now." And it's these assholes that created that uncertainty in our head. It's why we can't believe anything that goes on in the media.
Yeah, one of the biggest the health crisis that we actually legitimately face at this point is, I don't trust any of these doctors on CNN. I don't trust any of these people. I'm looking at how you had these bureaucrats inside of healthcare. You had these hospital administrators all taking marching orders from the CDC and the WHO instead of doctors like you or doctors in my own country, people who had actual empirical data that they were using to look at COVID. They have created a system where there's now a lot of doubt when it comes to people who we shouldn't be doubting. But again, they've destroyed journalism. They've destroyed our public school systems. They're destroying the judiciary at this point, and they are burning down everything that they infest.
Yeah, it's sad when you hear that. By the way, the fifth seal, I see your note here about when you were 9 years of age. I'm just delighted we were of help to you. I'm not going to read that. But what, other than speaking out, do you think there's other things we should be doing? Do you think there's specific actions that the average person should take other than using the ballot box?
Well, I think that building parallel everything is the best thing possible. And so if you can find a way to support mom and pop stores, if you can find a way to support these non-corporate entities, help those places grow, I think that's probably the best short-term or the easiest thing to probably do at this point is support your local farmer, get your vegetables, get your meat. It's a pain in the butt. I know that's a pain in the butt. But if you can help support those people can grow more food, and we can start distancing ourselves from these entities and these sectors that have been completely co-opted by just evil scumbags.
Well, you've mentioned food, you've mentioned pharma, you've mentioned regulators and lobby groups. Is it your opinion, and certainly mine, that having RFK Jr. in Washington could help unravel some of that and be a good idea? Not necessarily as president, but just his brain there in Washington.
Yeah, I like a lot of what RFK is doing. I've heard some clips where he's talking about guns and stuff like this. There's some. I'm not on board with anybody 100%, and there's enough with RFK that I love that I think he's clearly a benefit to the Trump ticket. It's a benefit to have that dude in a position of power. I mean, they killed his dad and they killed his uncle, as far as I'm concerned. And so shining a little bit of light on some of these agencies like the CIA could only, if you're going to get somebody to shine some light on the CIA, it's going to be somebody whose dad and his uncle were killed by these scumbags. And so put that dude in charge of that place, put him in charge of declassifying documentation. I think a lot of our problems are coming out of these agencies in Washington, D.C. that are completely, when have you ever heard anybody being held accountable for the CIA? Never. I mean, these people are clearly up to shenanigans. And they overthrew Latin America. No one's ever been held responsible for any of this. And we just keep moving forward. And an institution that can destroy an entire area like the Latin Americas, they're not going to be like, okay, well, it's not 1950 anymore, so we'll be good now. No, they get worse. The place just breed corruption. They shoot presidents in the head in front of everybody. They just shot Donald Trump in the head, as far as I'm concerned. There's no way that all of those were an accident. Every single one of those factors that led to Donald Trump being shot in the ear was an accident. My balls, get out of here. No, they set that dude up.
Well, speaking of your balls, do you adhere to Mike Benn's theory and assessment? Not even really a theory; he's got evidence for it. That declaring domestic terrorism the biggest threat to the American system allows or gives justification for turning all those same techniques that say were used against Latin America against the American people.
Yeah, so Mike Benz is a national treasure. I saw him on Tucker Carlson a few months ago, maybe. And he's on Twitter, and he's doing dissertations for everybody about the deep state, and it's a great listen. That's 100% spot on. And where I heard that first from was Alex Jones. I thought Alex Jones was crazy. I remember Alex Jones talking about the Patriot Act, and Alex Jones talking about how if we're going to start getting rid of civil liberties in order to fight terrorism, that will be turned on us. And he was saying this like 20 years ago. And I remember going, how could you take the military and use it against the American people? And it was my low scope and my low IQ and understanding that, no, of course that was the plan. And it's here. You just watched, as far as I'm concerned, the honey trap, the digital equivalent of a honey trap with this Tenant thing. All of a sudden, all of these podcasts, all of these inconvenient podcasters, they're all part of a Russia scam that the DOJ is now going to investigate because of a $10 million. The Russians put way more than $10 million into Twitter or Twitter X, Facebook, TikTok.
10 million is nothing to them.
Well, Russia, it's nothing.
Oh my gosh. That's hysterical. Did you see that Putin has a policy now for free, wide open visas for Americans who are tired of the decay of the West? Did you see this? If you go on TikTok, there's all these beautiful videos about St. Petersburg and freedom and how wonderful things are. Now, be careful. If you have a young male child, he may end up on the front lines in the Ukraine, but separate issue.
Yeah, he's got... What did he just do? Putin just endorsed Kamala Harris, by the way. So Kamala Harris, indictment coming your way. It's coming your way. We're going to investigate you. Russia ties. But no, this is all, again, it's propaganda for stupid people. But there's a lot of stupid people out there. True, I'm telling you. But Mike Pence is 100%
Well, it's not about smart or not smart, but we both fell victim to the Patriot Act. We both thought Alex Jones was out of his mind for making issue with that. I was like you. I was like, I got nothing to hide. What do I care? Give them the rent. We got to take care of things. Let's get these are the good guys, man. Let's go do this. Oh my God. So wrong. But damn, what was I going to say about this shit? But I was going to essentially say that you mentioned the honey trap. First of all, I would love it if you would explain what a honey trap was. And then if you would comment on whether or not there's something going on with the three-letter agencies and that honey trap and the Brazil action. It feels like social media outlets are in the crosshairs and it feels coordinated. What's a honey trap and is it coordinated with something else?
Yeah, I think it's all tied together. So a honey trap is it's just hijacking a dude with a hot chick, and so you'll if you got some sort of target out there that is maybe they've got access to information, maybe it's corporate espionage, who knows? But you put a hot woman in front of them, and then there's a bunch of things that you could do with that. By the way, you could just wiretap the hot broad, or you could maybe the hot broad 17, and then boom, now you're in real trouble. And so that's the honey trap. And when it comes to, again, you see the thing with the Department of Justice getting involved at such a low monetary level for a state actor, by the way, to get after these podcasters. And then the Department of Justice involved in that. And then you take a step back and you go, well, what's going on with the Brazil thing as well, where Brazil is kicking out Twitter and Brazil's going to start taking over. Brazil has taken over some of Elon Musk's entities over there. So they've taken it. I don't know if it's X related or Tesla related or SpaceX related, but they've We're confiscating it. It's ours now. Brazil's not doing that without an okay from somebody from Washington. Brazil isn't going to just take the Elon Musk stuff without somebody from Washington, D.C. saying, I imagine somebody from Washington, D.C. saying, take his stuff. And so you have Elon Musk flipping on. The reason why Elon Musk is on Donald Trump's side is because this administration has been robbing him. He has not been on board with them. They don't give the same tax credits to him than they do for Chevy for building crappy electric vehicles. And Elon Musk is recognizing that this government, if you don't play ball, they will do unrealized tax gains on you, and they'll just steal your money outright. And the dude is flipped on this administration. He's working with Trump, and then that has exacerbated the situation where now this administration is getting other state actors to start confiscating his stuff. Brazil seems to be run by a whole bunch of just lunatic, crazy characters from that Harry Potter movie. You seen that Supreme Court Justice judge over there?
Yeah. Yes, it's so funny. And Musk is going to do sort of a Twitter file release on him, apparently, that there's stuff to be told, the stories to be told about him. He's going to release a little bit every day. Should be interesting, right?
Yeah, I think so. These people, these high-level criminal actors, they've never been held accountable for anything. I'm looking at you, Hunter Biden, and they will communicate just on. These idiots will be DMing criminal messages back and forth on X. They'll probably be sharing all types of stuff that's criminal. And Elon Musk has that. He owns the entire platform. He's got access to these messages. God knows what the dude's got on this guy, but I don't imagine it would be hard to even find. These criminals operate out in the open when they're at that level.
The Rumble ranters are pointing out to me that the salt has appeared to have flown into my brain and coming out my mouth. You using the C word liberally, I guess, has inspired me to use a little more expletive in my expression that I normally would do. So I think they're right, but I'm inspired. Let's call it inspiration today. Let's leave it as something good. What kinds of things are you worried about right now? I mean, there are things you worry about. There are things that you're concerned that I worry about free speech. That's what I worry about. And I worry about a Harris administration could be worse on free speech. That worries me greatly. And could be worse on social media outlets in very much the manner we're just discussing. What are you worried about?
I think my biggest concern is that they seem to be awfully desperate. Clearly awfully desperate. You don't shoot Donald Trump if you think you can easily fortify an election, or if you think that you can legitimately win an election. You don't let Donald Trump get shot or facilitate it, as far as I'm concerned. You don't pull Joe Biden out. I'm still blown away that we went from Joe Biden's the sharpest Joe Biden ever, Joe Scarborough on MSNBC, and then 12 hours later, oh yeah, he's stepping down. Hold on, what? The fact that that's not cognitive dissonance in a lot of people out there, that scares the hell out of me. But these are not actions of a regime that is stable. Their ability to continue doing what they want to do in criminal fashion is clearly waffling, which is having them exposed to doing some really crazy stuff. Again, it's blowing my mind that Donald Trump was shot a month ago, and the news cycle no one wants to really talk about it. Your presidential candidate, who's supposed to be the president right now, was removed a month ago. You've got the world's lowest approval rating VP, and you're telling me she's winning all of a sudden? We are in warfare right now. The only way you can explain to me that 300 plus million people are going on like everything's totally fine, not questioning these. We are boiled like frogs right now, and we have been put into a pressure cooker, and we're just moving forward. And so I'm concerned that these things that have been happening over just the last month, these are not tiny things. These are massive, huge things. And people are just moving forward. So the trajectory of this is crazier stuff is coming. What is that crazier stuff than an assassination attempt? What is the crazier stuff than, oh yeah, the president's totally fine, smartest guy I know. Oh wait, he's stepping down this week. Something huge is coming, Dr. Drew.
You have a theory?
I don't have the mental capacity to think like these evil people. My brain just it doesn't go in that direction. These people are evil. I mean, what they think of and what they can dream up of, their process of thinking. We're not the same species, and so I know it's bad. That's why I know. I just know it's not going to be good for me. It's not going to be good for my countrymen.
I saw I think it was an X post with some video and description of massive National Guard deployment in major cities. I don't know if that's true or not, or incidental or what, or I don't know if they're in practice. But if that's true, people became immediately paranoid and said, "Oh my God, there's going to be martial law. They're on the eve of locking us down for God knows what reason." And I thought, oh, come on, give me a break. And I thought, oh, no, wait, that's me being dumb again. Anything's possible. It's even, I would never, ever, ever consider that as a possibility until the world I'm in today. And so to your point about boiling the frog, the problem we're into, I want to say this over and over again, probably every day, is that 20% of people are it's the way of the human condition, are prone to being victims of propaganda. They just immediately get swept into it and become enthusiasts for whatever the propaganda is. 20%. 20% are hypnotizable. 20% fall victim to propaganda. We can't do anything about that, particularly unless we outlaw propaganda, which we used to have. We used to have laws against propaganda because they are powerful. Maybe we want to visit that again. Maybe that's what I should start to champion. Who decides what's propaganda? That worries me a little bit. But maybe we should have some sort of, at least that you can't use well-known techniques of propaganda. But the problem is, you and me and other people throw the bullshit flag very easily. But it's that 70% that just wants to get on with their life and be happy. We got to get them on board to fight against that 20% that's just going to go with it no matter what.
Yeah, and I think that to that point, one of the things that's probably going to wake up some of those people is a continued degradation of quality of life. And when you go to the grocery, I know the White House press secretary just told me yesterday prices are down at the grocery store. Mission accomplished. No, hell no. Prices are still through the roof, and that type of stuff wakes up the sleeping masses. That right there is. They don't put a whole bunch of propaganda when it comes to the economy for no reason. They trying to gaslight these normies right back to sleep. They're trying to almost medically sedate them with information, dumb information. Oh no, gas prices are down, food prices are down, car prices are down. Meanwhile, they're through the roof. And so as that pain continues to move forward, those people will be hopefully less susceptible not only to propaganda, and if they're not susceptible to propaganda, maybe these are people who are just not even remotely paying attention. Maybe it will get them off of the fence or get them up and motivated to start speaking against these people who.
That's right. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. They are not prone. They're not prone to propaganda the way the 20% is, but they are not paying attention. And I heard recently that a friend of mine was saying that their sort of Gen Z age kids don't seem to be paying much attention, which kind of surprised me. I thought in most countries they're sort of thinking that way. Unfortunately, they're deluded, but actually I hear it's a good thing if Gen Z is not thinking about politics. But Caleb, you threw up the fake White House there a second ago. Did Salty say something that reminded you of that?
Yes. No, I did. I was told to make sure I put it up before the end of the show, so I just had to get it up. Oh,
I was going to get there.
Okay, good. We'll get back to that.
You know what? I can't read the what is the statement at the top of that picture.
So this is opinion. So it says Joe Biden is a pretend president performing on a fake White House soundstage where he reads what Obama puts in his teleprompter. Okay, well, I mean, some of that may or may not be true, but yeah, it does. But if you look at the top there, it's a set. It's obviously a set.
Yeah, it's a set, but the question is, so what is so salty, what is so sinister about creating a set that looks nice for the president? I mean, look, the press pool is a set, effectively. I don't know if you've ever been in there, but it's on top of a pool, on a swimming pool that JFK used to act out on women in quite regularly. There's excessive reports of that. Oh, you don't know about those? Oh, yeah.
I didn't know about that at all.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, lots of firsthand reports from some of the now not so young ladies that were really. I mean, the way his treatment of women was extraordinary by today's standard. Extraordinary. And he was a opiate addict, and he was a stimulant addict for a minute, and it's a case in point that you can be a good president and be a sick person. It's just weird that that's the way it is. It's just true. But if he had kept going, though, the intermittent psychoses he was having from the stimulants and the progression of opiate addiction, God help us where that would have ended up. I always wondered if that was one of the reasons they did away with him, because the things were not going well and they didn't know how to handle it back then. But be that as it may, weird speculation. Back to the idea of a set being put in front of the White House. Who cares if they did a set? It looks nicer. Why is that an issue?
Yeah, it's an issue because they initially pretended that it wasn't a set. And when you've got a coordinated effort to lie to the American public, I don't have a problem with the set. I have a problem with a coordinated effort to lie to people and manipulate them. If you want to build a set, maybe you need better lighting. Maybe there's an infinite amount of reasons that you can come up with that are legitimate. But don't blow smoke up my balls and tell me that no. Well, it's not. That's not a stage. That's not a fake White House. Well, why is he across the street? Why? I mean, again, it could be for some innocuous reason, right. but they continue to lie, and it was a coordinated effort between the White House and the media, and so now you got people that are supposed to be my representatives and corporate, and that merger is always bad for the American for any pleb out there. That's a bad merger to be against.
Corporate and government, which I always thought had a term applied to it called fascism. That's what that model of government was. I understand why we don't call it out for that now. Speaking of blowing smoke up your balls, there's somebody in here talking about JFK's Addison's disease, which he did not have. He had a well-known consequence of chronic opiate use, which is Addisonian depression of his adrenal function. A lot of my patients have testicular failure and adrenal failure from the opiates. They did not know that back then. The myth goes on that he had Addison's disease, which he did not. He did not. He had an asshole that was giving him a syringe of Demerol or morphine, whatever they're using back then. That same guy came out here and did his work on many people, including Marilyn Monroe. So good times. But let's get the truth out. And again, it's possible to be a sick person and a good president. This is one thing. Abraham Lincoln had severe mood disorder. Teddy Roosevelt, severe mood disorder, narcissism. These were great presidents, but human beings. That's the thing. And if we don't get used to that, no one's going to be in this in this job. Keith Smith, what opiates they have in the 60s, they had morphine sulfate. It's been around since the turn of the 20th century, and they had various congeners of that at the time. But most of it was parenteral. That's why the doctor was giving it in shots on a regular basis. So you are inspiring me to go off on a number of different things. I was thinking about Dave Rubin coming back from his sort of summer vacation. He was gone for a few weeks, and he was like, anything happen? And to your point, he come in just a few weeks of absence. He has like 30, do you remember where you were when phenomenon's happening? And the frog has been boiled. You're absolutely right. We just don't expect the press to do any work. We have just gotten so accustomed to a status quo that is really illegitimate, filled with lies and distortions, and is competent. Is this something we just have to accept? And those of us that want to try to create content continue to fish around for something that approximates the truth? Or are we going to find some way to hold media accountable? Or are the market forces going to take care of that themselves?
Yeah, I think the market forces will end up taking care of that by itself. I'm hoping that what we're seeing right now, it seems to me, I could be wrong, but I'm not. I'm totally right in the situation. Corporate media has long lost its value in delivering its stated goals. New York Times is not going to keep you informed. You're not going to get any geopolitical awareness. astute from the Washington Post at this point. And so they have, from a business model, turned towards entities that will fund them, whether it's through federal grants. Backdoor taxpayer money is being utilized to keep those aging institutions moving in the direction that they're going. And I'm hoping that what we're in right now is a transitionary phase where they're dying off. And these institutions that are utilizing them for propaganda and to protect these regimes and to gaslight and protect, again, this federal apparatus is funding these institutions, and it's a symbiotic relationship. And so these institutions are going to attack anybody who's speaking out against them or proving them wrong. That's going to only get worse for them as things move on and more content creators expose and stand up to them. And hopefully they just die off, become irrelevant. But then we'll have a new war on our hands because those people that were funding those institutions, those legacy institutions, will start funding Internet 2.0, and you'll start having, content creators who are a little bit, it'll be hard. You'll have to find new ways to find out who's been co-opted and who's saying real stupid shit. But again, it's real easy. The people who have a track record of being success should outlast them, and the cycle will go on and on and on. And they'll have new technology that will be adapted to.
That's right. Just look for the flow of salt, and I think that will be a good indicator that you're in good shape. And yeah, it is true that media has never really changed. It's just the technology has changed. And it was, film in the turn of the 20th century. That was the new technology. You have to think about it that way. But that the one thing that has shifted, I would say, a little bit is artistry first went away, and now professionalism has gone. So these techniques are just being used sort of, guerrilla style by everybody. And it makes it a little more dangerous, and I'm not quite sure what that's going to mean. I mean, think about it. People looked at Charlie Chaplin as an artiste, a auteur. This was a great expression of a great man. And then radio had great performers, and those performers went to television, and then you'd have journalists that were using this media to do their craft, and then shit show. Then the shit show developed. It got all adulterated, and now everybody has access to everything. And I'm not quite. I guess when the day is done, smart will prevail and skill will prevail. People will appreciate that, I think, when the day is done. And so it has always been so. It may not be artistry and it may not be professionalism, but I'd say skill will be probably the thing that people have to look for. And I'll give you a compliment and say that you have found your way into a position where your skill is highly valued, and your people, I'm watching them and their rees and their appreciation for you, and they put their money where their mouth is in our stream here today. And so thank you for doing what you do. Remind me again what you did in your previous life.
I was a teacher.
And what did you teach?
Elementary.
History teacher. Elementary.
No,
who's your history teacher?
You can if you teach elementary, you can teach it like anything for like the first 5 years, and so just a general teaching. Great.
And are you a big reader? Are you reading anything these days?
I'm a big audio person, and so reading's not my modality of choice, but a lot of podcasts.
And is there anything that's in print that you're excited about that we can recommend?
No, sadly. The last thing I was reading.
Man, I'm with you, Salty.
The Silver.
I would recommend Eric Larson's. Eric Larson's book. He's the guy that wrote Devil in the White City. He's got a book about 1930s Germany through the eyes of the American ambassador there. Really good. And he's got another book about the assault on Fort Sumter and the run up to the Civil War called Demons and the something. And these are important periods of history for our present moment. And these are interesting ways entertaining ways to keep your attention and to tell the stories, and the phenomenal detail with which he tells them. And things are always more complicated than historical myths suggest. It's always more complicated, and we should really look at it because the echoes in our present moment are uncanny. Humans just seem to go through these turns on a regular basis, and we are just in one now, and we have to figure out how to get through it to optimally benefit all of us, everybody, not just the people who think they're right or not just the people who care. All of us need to benefit. I saw a post where a socialist party was having a big convention, and this woman posted, and masks are required because socialists care. And I thought, oh my God, if that were true. If that could not be further from the truth. If you just examine the history, I mean, you, honey, may care, but the history of your movement is all about not caring. It's just not possible. All right, Salty, last words, and then we'll wrap this up. Well, that's where it goes. That's where socialism always goes. That's the other thing that history will teach you. But go ahead, last thoughts.
Yeah, the very caring killing fields. Yeah, no, I'm okay. I could do it without.
That's right.
Who needs enemies? You got friends like socialists. No, I'm okay. I want to be left alone. Yeah. That's all I want, Drew. I don't want.
Mao cared. Pol Pot cared. Napoleon cared. They all cared. Ceausescu cared.
I want to talk to some of those dead people.
All right.
On my show.
Go ahead. Promo it.
So we're doing a Calling Out with Susan Pinsky show today at 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 Eastern. And we're going to be speaking with Captain Dan Hanley, who is a 9/11 pilot whistleblower who thinks that the planes that flew into the Twin Towers were autopiloted. And we're going to use psychic mediums to see if there's any validity to this.
That's at 3 o'clock today Pacific time.
Yes.
And I'll drop by.
And then we're going to give you a psychic reading, Drew.
Okay, I can't wait. Well, I'll come by and see what you guys do to me.
Don't look too excited, okay?
So, but it should be interesting. It's an interesting subject. And
you know what I like about salt flowing is that it keeps the evil spirits away. So all this salt flowing is helping my show. So
sage and salt, but doesn't it have to be kosher salt? I'm not sure my salt is kosher. His salt comes in a shaker. The salt's been flowing today.
His salt is pure. So here we go.
All right, before we let you go, let me just quickly look at our streamers, Restream and Ranters to see if there's anything. Okay, hold on, guys. I'm sorry. A second here. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't have time to get into all this. Pink Himalayan salt. Is there a particular type of salt that flows?
Just angry lefty tear salt, Dr. Drew.
Tears, got it. Tears.
So it's kosher.
Tears of those folks. I get it. I understand. That's where the salt accumulates, right around the eyelashes. All right, my friend, thank you for being here. Where do they go to find you? Where do you want them to show up today?
Just saltmustflow.com. But thank you again for having me, Dr. Drew Crew. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
I think the viewers like this because you bring I'm trying not to be hubristic. Yeah, I want to feel like I learned that from COVID, that I had a little bit of hubris going into it. But you inspire my hubristic nature at times, and it's a little scary for me. But we let it flow today.
It is so bizarre listening to you for like 15 years on Loveline, and then like now hearing you cuss. There's this part of my brain that it schisms a little bit when I hear that. But I love it. I love every second of it. Thank you so much.
Well, it's your fault. So we'll leave it at that. You reap what you sow, my friend. We will see you again soon, I hope. Salty Cracker, everyone. Salty Cracker 9 on X. Follow him on Rumble. And for us coming up, we have the great Rob Schneider in here next Tuesday. We have Susan's show this afternoon at 3. We have Joel Pollack, Jimmy Dore, Martin Macri, Laura Trump, Matt Walsh. Look at that lineup. Those are interesting people I'd like to hear from. And you shall as well. Be sure to be here for those. Check the times. Obviously, Thursday, we're sometimes doing it at noon. But I think those are all at 3, I think. But do check us out. Follow us. Subscribe on Rumble. We are like seconds away from 300,000 followers there. And we like Rumble. We want to support Rumble. And Rumble also has been excised from the Brazilian enterprise. So let's support the people that Brazil attacks. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll see you at 3 o'clock for Susan's show today, right here. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.